So, Kent, is this an addiction story or a recovery story?
That's a good question. It's a recovery story. Yeah, it's a recovery story. I would like to think that this is a story and a message of hope.
Okay, tell me the story.
Okay, so firstly some background. I grew up in central Queensland. Had a great upbringing. It was everything that a stereotypical vision of growing up in Queensland country would be. A lot of sport. One of three boys, mum and dad working very hard. I was good at school, I was good at sport. There was sort of nothing in my upbringing which was going to give any indication of what was coming down the pipeline for me later in life. And then I went on this sort of journey of achievement, I suppose you could say. I played for Australia under 21s. I completed a law degree in Queensland. I practiced law. I hated studying it and I didn't like practicing it, and I realised that I did it to people please my parents, who had put myself and my two older brothers through private school. Worked out I wasn't going to play for Australia, the full national team, and applied for and got a scholarship to Oxford University. An Oxford Blue. I played in the varsity match and then joined Harlequins in London, where I was a player and a coach for about 5.5, 6 years. Played with some of the best players, well, certainly that England had. There was half of our team was the England rugby team in the 1991 World Cup. Household names like Brian Moore, Jason Leonard, Peter Winterbottom, Will Carling, Mickey Skinner, Paul Ackford, Troy Coker from Australia was there, Simon Halliday, David Pears, etc., etc. So up until this point, I've had this sort of really, really, colourful, robust life, I suppose. Then I got a job in the city, and I ended up as a foreign exchange trader at Citibank. And I ended up, in the time I was there, I ended up being a director of the bank. And I semi-retired just before my 50th birthday. So in broad brush terms, it looks like a very robust, colourful, fulfilling life. Unfortunately, I had a problem with cocaine, and it crept up on me, and it was my deep, dark secret. My family didn't know, unbelievably. My work colleagues didn't know, and my friends didn't know. And I had used cocaine recreationally, but there was a direct correlation between the fact when I was struggling with life, challenging with life, I was leaning into cocaine as a coping mechanism. And it got to a point, my use got to a point where there was this sort of crossroads where I was absolutely gripped with guilt, shame, remorse, and embarrassment. And that actually only fueled the cocaine use. So I ended up being in a country I didn't want to be in. I was done with England. I'd been over here a long time. Ended up being in a country I didn't want to be in, with a woman I didn't want to be with, my ex-girlfriend, and in a job I didn't want to do. The stress of being in the city for 22 years had taken its toll, and I was just leaning into cocaine and isolating from everybody. Just to give you an idea of amounts, I was doing anywhere between 20 and 30 grams of cocaine a week. It was 80,000 pounds a year. The bad days I was doing like 6 grams a day. And look, I don't say that with any pride. It is embarrassing, even to this day. But the fact of the matter was I was an addict. I was addicted and I couldn't stop. So I went into rehab. I came out of rehab. I relapsed after 8 days. I found myself in a hotel room and I wiped myself out for 3 weeks and nearly died. So where did it take me physically, mentally and spiritually? So I'm 90 kilograms today. When I went into rehab, I was 63 kilograms. So you can sort of take about a third of my body weight off me, and I looked absolutely horrendous. And I can't stress this enough. I was addicted. I'd wake up every day and I just had this physical craving and this mental obsession. And I never at one stage thought I had a choice. And the crazy thing about it, where it took me was I'd be sitting there laying in bed and my heart's just going and going and going. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have a heart attack here. And my best thinking is to go and do another line of cocaine. Anyway, after that 3 weeks in the hotel room, I had what they call a spiritual awakening. I was laying in bed. It was 3:22 a.m. on the clock on the TV. And I just said, I am done. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And that was the 18th. My first clean day was the 18th of June, 2016. So I haven't had a line of cocaine or any alcohol since. But you asked me the question, is this an addiction story? Is this a recovery story? That is the backstory. But the good stuff and why I'm doing this video is because it's a message of hope. You know, I was metaphorically down on one knee, head down, with like this grim reaper of cocaine addiction just lurching over me, you know, about to deliver a knockout punch. And it would have killed me. And the knockout punch would have come by way of a heart attack because my heart was under so much stress. I was so poor physically. I was so fragile mentally. And I was absolutely bankrupt spiritually. And all that needed to be delivered was for me to have a heart attack and die, and then the story would have been complete. And so I took it to its, you know, its nth degree. And so, you know, what I'm here to say is that we can recover. And I'm not talking about just addiction and alcoholism. You know, I want to send a message to hope to people that whether it's grief or anxiety or imposter syndrome or loss of a loved one, rejection, abandonment as a child, if you're burdened by something, I absolutely believe that we can heal and recover. And the reason I say that is because it happened to me. I went within an inch of death, in my opinion. And so now I say to people, if you've got some sort of presenting issue, speak to someone. What I did was isolate. I took on addiction one-on-one. Coming out the other side, I went and studied. I got so intrigued by the concept of recovery. I just thought, how does this happen? I'm absolutely addicted and I cannot stop. I can't stop for my children. I can't stop for myself. I can't stop for anybody. I've just got this physical craving. And yet now I'm coming up 8 years clean and sober. How is that possible? You know, firstly, I've got to thank Narcotics Anonymous and a 12-step program. But there's more to it. First and foremost, human beings don't want to die. We have a spirit in us, right, that you'll never know how courageous and brave you can be until that's all you've got, is to be brave and courageous. And you'll go to a place that you did not know that you would be able to go to. So there's a survivor's instinct in us. And so for me, I didn't want to die. And then I got a bit of recovery. The first year, not easy. And then I got offered jobs to go back to the city. I didn't want to do that. And I thought I want to help people. So I go and do a 2.5-year diploma and psychology. I do a therapeutic diploma. And now I'm a counsellor, mentor, which is doing unbelievably well. That sort of came out of left field. And I'm also doing motivational speaking. But getting back to my point is that this is a message of hope. This is a message that you can get up off the deck. This is a message that you can put the past behind you, get brave, get courageous, get honest, get truthful, process, and come out the other side a better version of yourself. So we go back to the original question, is this an addiction story or is this a recovery story? This is a recovery story. This is a story of experience, strength, and hope. And I'm reaching out to people now that say, if you want to talk about anything, forget about the concept of counselling and mentoring just at this stage. If there's something on your mind and you just want someone to talk to and you know, friends and family, it just doesn't sit right. If you want to talk to someone, speak to someone who's, you know, I've experienced a lot in my life, reach out to me at Bray Counselling and Mentoring.